Revolution Radio proudly presents, live from the heart of the Blue Ridge, Roanoke, Virginia. It's the justBernard Show with host Bernard Alvarez. Join Bernard as he shares topics that reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience, including world liberty, the esoteric, suppressed technologies, spiritual ascension, and human consciousness. Humanity has awakened, and our time has come to realize our full potential. And now, live from the Star City, your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another Just Bernard show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We've got another fantastic show lined up for you this week. What else do? We have great shows. But before that, let me go ahead and let's welcome our Assistant Director of the G.I.C., Trevor Knott, joining us live from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Hello, Trevor. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good. I can't help. I just got to point out that it's starting to get cold, and you got some snow finally, didn't you?
Yeah, it didn't stick around.
Oh, well, that's good. They're warning us for a deep freeze, actually, ourselves here in Virginia. So I just had to bring that up. I'm like, here we are. It's not even Halloween yet, and we're looking at freezing temperatures. But I don't know. Did it happen last year this early? I don't remember. But anyway, so for everybody that's in the chat room, I just want to let you know that Trevor will be manning the chat for us live on the Revolution Radio website. If you want to ask Tom or myself or Trevor any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat, and we will make sure to do our best to answer them. With that being said, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're very thrilled with our new series that's coming out. It is a series created, written, produced by myself and fellow Revolution Radio host, Roxy Lopez, and it's called Contradiction. Life is a contradiction, but it doesn't need to be a lie, and we are going to start releasing episode number 1 on a weekly, the first episode will be released. What better day than the 5th of November? Remember, the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Day. And I believe the first episode is about, are we ready for a fifth dimensional reality? So we're going to start off big and work our way down, and then we work out to the big again. It's an 8-week series. I think you all will enjoy it. Roxy and I really enjoyed working together. We always enjoy working together. But we really enjoyed filming the series, and the topics include everything from GMOs to cooperation to corporations to just everything that we all talk about. But I think the most important thing that we did that was different with the work that we've done in the past together is that we approached every topic as a contradiction, because so many of us are living in what I call, or what many people call, cognitive dissonance. And we did our best to kind of share what the topic is, as well as sharing different solutions to do the best that we can during this very interesting changing of the guards, for lack of a better term, as we move into this new paradigm. So keep an eye out for Contradiction. It will be available on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/justBernard, as well as Roxy's YouTube channel. And I have a bookmark, but I don't know the address. But go to thetruthDenied.com and you'll be able to see those episodes as they come out, as well as the GIC.org. So without further ado, we have a guest joining us today. And quite honestly, I remember hearing him for the first time on Roxy's show, The Truth Denied, back when she was on GIC Radio. And Tom Lescher has definitely captured my attention. I love his style. I love the way that he just presents this information, and let me just say the way it rolls off your tongue, Tom. But without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Tom. Tom Kaypacha Lescher has more than 35 years of experience as an astrologer and spiritual practitioner. His approach to healing spirit, mind, and body through emotional release and Kundalini yoga utilizes astrology as a healing art. He is the author of the Pele Report, a weekly astrological YouTube forecast, and numerous magazine and online articles. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Tom. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Bernard.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show today, and I thank you for taking the time out to join us. Tom, why don't you let's start off with what's going on right now. I mean, we just had a full moon, we've had the meteor shower, we've had the eclipses. How does this affect us, and what can you share with us about what's happening right now?
Well, yeah, it's quite a time. These eclipses are happening of course, the eclipse happens when the plane of where the moon intersects the ecliptic, which is the Earth's orbit around the sun, when they all coincide, which happens twice a year. That is when you get this lineup of the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. We had this lunar eclipse on the 18th. And then that was the full moon it was a very, very partial eclipse, but it is coming around again. As the moon comes to a new moon, we're going to have this solar eclipse coming, on November 3rd, which I see as being a very, potent, powerful time. This is a potent, powerful time, right? Just in terms of that this is happening in the sign of Scorpio, which is known as the intense sign. Yeah, and if that wasn't intense enough, okay, we have the planet Saturn, which has been moving through the sign of Scorpio since October of 2012. It's going to be there for 2.5 years until the spring of 2015. And Saturn has to do with authority, power, establishment, order, structure. It's the bones of it's the skeleton. It's our teeth. It's calcium. It's also having to do with government and with banks and with structure and order. It's very powerful.
Wow.
In the chart of the United States in particular. And, it goes around every 28 to 29 years. Everybody remembers these 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. These are the big 7-year shifts and changes. And so Saturn has to do with form, with structure, with reforming and restructuring when it comes around. So when it's moving through the sign of Scorpio, and then it has this conjunction to the north node of the moon, and this eclipse is actually conjunct the planet Saturn, and Mercury is also there. So it's not just a solar eclipse, it's also this grand conjunction. It's called a stellium of the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn, all together in the sign of Scorpio. And that symbolizes, of course, in astrology, Scorpio has to do with death and resurrection. I really associate it with the butterfly, the caterpillar, weaves a cocoon, and then spits out its own acid that dissolves itself into complete liquid. Out of the complete liquid emerges the butterfly. So this Shiva force, this death force, this Kali, Durga, annihilation, demolition of of the structure of the current order, heralds, a tremendous letting go time. And this letting go is prior to, necessary for, and a huge part of the alchemical process, of ascension, of transformation, of rebirthing into something, more evolved, more intelligent, more on it, more together, more an expression of the essence, I would say, than there was before. So this time of the eclipse, and even it's almost like the eclipse is a peak of a like a sine wave. We could say that there's the sine wave goes down, 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 and you hit the bottom, and then you resurrect. I could say that November 3rd, okay, and it's interesting with the political scene what's going on,
right.
But November 3rd, November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, we got to give this thing 5 days, of major impact and major influence. Can be seen as the bottom of the barrel, the very turning point, tipping point. Yes.
Oh, that's a good thing.
in this process, and after that, there's going to be a rise, and if I my interpretation of that, if I look at the world and of course my belief systems and whatever, I see this as a real period of Saturn has to do with external. Well, it has to do with authority, form, and structure. And this authority has been, through the last 6,500 years of patriarchy, externalized. Mm-hmm. And we have been sheep following bankers and religious people and governmental officials and military dictators, for thousands of years now. And it's just now is a time where that is no longer viable for the evolution of the species or the planet, and it is the death of the externalization of authority. And I would say ever since Uranus went into Aries, particularly in the spring of 2011, we have this, Uranus is the third eye. It's the awakening, the enlightening. It's Prometheus in the mythology. And Aries is this new birth of the self, of the I. And Uranus is in that sign of Aries from 2011 till 2018. And this heralds a 7-year period of revolutionizing our individual, autonomous, sovereign self, of awakening to the power of our desire, of our masculine, of our warrior. Aries is the god of war in Roman mythology. And this also has to do, of course, we can talk about anything, Bernard, but, there's this balancing of the masculine and the feminine, this masculine and feminine. The patriarchy, obviously, is this masculine that's been about myself, excluding the other. It's been about the development of ego and self-centeredness and the I, me, my capitalistic, Western civilization model. That has really, built a lot of greed and a lot of, us against them, competition kind of energy, which is the expression of an immature, masculine, period.
Like a collective consciousness of immature masculine.
yeah, I would say exactly right. And that's the thing about, it's this blending between the inner and the outer. If we look at the really big cycles, I think you did want to talk a little bit about what's been going on since 12/21/12.
Yeah.
That 12/21/12 was like this peak in a 26,000 year cycle, which is a big cycle for anybody to even wrap their head around. We can't really grasp how much time that is, but that does have to do with the alignment of 0 degrees Capricorn, the winter solstice point in the northern hemisphere, with the galactic center. And that cycle has a lot to do with this rebalancing of the masculine and the feminine, which has to do with the rebalancing of matriarchy and patriarchy, social, religious conditioning, of humanity. So these things are both internal and external. I work with people, I counsel people, I do individual readings with people that, it's very personal, coming into touch with your own masculine, feminine energy and balancing that inwardly. And then there's also the externalization of that. As each one of us becomes more personally balanced and integrated, we're going to find that there's going to be a shift externally within our government, within our, economic, religious institutions that are going to naturally reflect this evolutionary impulse that's now emerging within human consciousness to integrate in a more wholesome and we could say mature way the expression of this masculine and feminine. So, I don't know, since 1950, we've really had a lot of, the woman's liberation, the rise of the feminine, the reemergence. It was kind of the start of this age of Aquarius that is coming in now. And it's having, major, massive effects on our social stuff, too.
I just wanted to, I just love the synchronicity of the topics and what we are discussing on today's show in relation to our show last week. And I just wanted to just peek in here and say that we had Anodea Judith, who just wrote a wonderful book called The Global Heart Awakens. And she was paralleling everything that you're saying right now. How Western civilization, and especially how those in power, or at least those who support power, are beginning to grow up, and how we need to grow up and mature as a humanity. And she wasn't necessarily relating to whether it be astrology or the cycles of the earth, but she definitely was saying that this is the next level for human consciousness, is the I don't know if the right word to say, the maturing of the collective consciousness of humanity as a whole. Now, for those that don't really quite understand what happened on 12/21/2012, can you, and I don't mean the Mayan prophecies, but astrologically, what did that mean? What is galactic alignment for those that don't necessarily visualize or see the diagrams or whatnot? Can you explain that a little bit and why that's so significant?
Yes, because it has to do, and I don't know how far out there you want to get, Bernard, but
we like to go way far out, so go as far as you want to go.
it's pretty phenomenal, because I just got back from this In 5D convention, in Florida, with the Galactivation and
nice.
Lisa Renee and Laura Eisenhower,
Nice.
Numbers of people that are very hooked into the alien agenda and the extraterrestrial events with Lemuria and Atlantis. And if we really want to look at it, it was, and it actually does apply. So if I don't know what kind of audience. Okay, I mean, I'm not familiar with your audience, so I don't know.
We're about as far out as we get, so go for it.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, so what they're all talking about here, right? Obviously, a lot of the same beings, the same souls, the same beings that were on Atlantis, are right back, in positions of power and control in America. And they're wanting to do the same type of world power and world domination that they did with Atlantis. And they screwed it up all last time. And last time, one of the things that they did was, they used, their crystal energy and their ability to harness tremendous amounts of power, to conquer, going through the inner earth. Rather than going around the surface of the globe, they decided to go through the center, and that created the sinking of Atlantis and a massive catastrophe that actually set the planet wobbling. So right now, and it messed up all the stargates, it messed up all the portals, and threw out of alignment, the pyramids and everything that was, hooked up, connecting our planet to the whole galactic federation, whatever, yeah. And so this wobble, now we have this, this wobbling of the earth actually creates what's called the precession of the equinoxes. And the Earth is flying through space, wobbling like a top that's, slowing down. And it says that every 26,000 years, the Earth completes a full wobble. So that the North Star, right now, the pole stars are, the North Star is our pole star. That is not always been, and it's not always going to be the North Star.
Right.
And then, of course, our seasonal changes, the equinox and the solstice points, move and shift through, with this wobble, they move and shift through the zodiac a degree every 72 years. So they move through one of the signs approximately every 2,160 years, and they go all the way around every 26,000 years. Hindus and the Vedic astrology and everything goes very much into this 26. The Kali, Kali Durga, and the age of light. Okay, I mean we are now shifting. These ages from the one of darkness, age of darkness, into this age of light. And of course, dark and light is also masculine and feminine. And we can go into the plus and minus, light and dark, day and night, yin and yang. And this is all very symbolic, okay, of this whole reintegration, rebalancing, emerging into consciousness, the unconscious elements and factors within our makeup to further evolve our species. So on December 21st, it takes me a long time to get around to answering your question, man.
No, thank you. You're building up beautifully.
So December 21st of 2012, was this real peak. Okay, but it's such a huge cycle. Like I say, in my talks, if you're going to give a 26,000 year cycle, okay, you're not going to, you got to give it at least 500 years, to make that shift. So I really see this, even December, 21st of 2012 is like the midpoint of a 500 year cycle. And I could say that started with July 4th of 1776. And is going to go until 2250. That's a good 500-year stretch. So we could say really that we're kind of at this fulcrum. Again, we're at this huge turning point, this huge rebalancing, this huge corner. We're turning this corner, and, we're just right at that point where, the truck can tip over if it's going too fast.
It's true,
Yeah, man.
People think, or some people have, said to me, it's like, well, I woke up on the 22nd and nothing was different. Well, it's not like that. It's not going to happen overnight. We'll go into what I call like a shock, a chakra, a shock or something,
Yeah. Well, I'd say if anything, one of the big turning points with that, okay, and this has to do with the Uranus square Pluto, okay, and now Uranus was conjunct Pluto in the mid-60s, 65 and 66, and Uranus goes around every 85 years, Pluto goes around every 248 years, so Uranus moves ahead, and now it has extended 90 degrees past Pluto to the first, what in astrology we call the square. It's the circle divided by 4. It's 90 degrees. And if you look at it in terms of the season, you could say that the conjunction in the 60s was like the seed, sowing the seed in springtime. And then that square would have to do with the summer when the plant breaks through the earth, the seed germinates and spends a certain amount of time, beneath the surface. But at that 90-degree turning point, there's a crisis in action. There's a crisis in manifestation. The potential needs to come into Yeah, because the number 4 has to do with power and manifestation in the third dimensional realm. So this square between Uranus and Pluto, it really began in the summer of 2012. The first one was in June of 2012. And these guys do a little dance back and forth. There's 7 of them. September of 12, May of 13, November 1st of 13, April of 14, December of 14, and March of 15. They do this dance of retrograde forward, back and forth for a year and a half, or 2.5 years, I'm sorry. June of 12 to March of 15. And this square of Uranus to Pluto is, I already spoke about this, Uranus breaking free, breaking into an awareness, a desire, a need for autonomy, for sovereign action.
We have to take a break, Tom. We'll be right back. Hold that thought.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are having a wonderful discussion, of course, with Tom Lescher. And Tom, before we went on the break, you were talking to us about the cycles and the dates of change, moving forward, moving back. I don't know if I can bring you back into that place of of flowing with the thought, but can you maybe kind of evoke it a little bit and clarify and finish up what you were saying?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, let me cut to the chase. I mean, basically in the 60s, 65 and 66, I was talking about a seed being planted, and I feel that seed is we create our own reality. And Timothy Leary helped us at that point to create our own reality.
And some other things.
But now that the square of these 2 planets, Uranus and Pluto, is a time, like I spoke of where the seed, the concept, the theory, needs to manifest in action. A crisis in action, and we need to come out from gestation within the earth or the womb and do something, act out of that impulse to create the manifestation. So if we look at this, this time period, the big thing that happened, we look at what is this whole thing? We're coming out of the age of Pisces, which has to do with passive, sleeping, and dreaming into infinite love, multidimensional universes with no polarity. It's the unified field theory consciousness. This is Pisces. And we're emerging into Aquarius, which is an air sign. It's awaken, it's illumination, it's enlightenment, it's liberation. And so this 12-21-12 comes around, and wham, nothing happens. We cannot sleep through this. It's not going to happen without us. If we're going to create our own reality, each and every single one of us needs to start the creative process instead of being passive observers, thinking that, some aliens are coming or some savior is coming or some, So, this is like, it's like perfect. Right? That we are the ones we've been waiting for. Yeah. And so, 12-21 comes on, everybody goes, oh, shit,
Nothing happened.
You mean I got to do it myself, And so I'm seeing this as, part of this project, and so, part of this project, is that, it's time, for each one of us as individuals. I mean, your commercial was great. Fear, is, it's a byproduct of the ego, which is that aspect or portion of ourselves that we, come into when we come into a third dimensional physical body. The ego wants to keep this physical body alive. I say it's about 10% of our consciousness. 90% of our consciousness is unconscious, and that is our multidimensional, spiritual, infinite self. And as we identify with this ego, and we identify with separation, then we can get into plus, minus, good, bad, right, wrong, me, you, live, die, and get into states of fear and insecurity. So I don't know. I mean, part of my, I like to start small, start within. My first thing is breathe. Breathing is like the biggest, the number one, right? It's all in the inhale and the exhale, bringing in the new, releasing the old. And then it has to do with physical exercise. It has to do with diet. It has to do with yoga. But particularly now, these eclipses, Mercury, Saturn, Sun, Moon. Mercury is the left brain. Linear. The expression of the ego is our thoughts. We think in polarity. We live in a polarized consciousness, third dimensional world. It's conjunct Saturn, and it's in the sign of Scorpio, which is mastery, ultimately. And
we lost Tom. Skype is trying to get him back. Sorry about that to our listeners. For those of you that don't know, Tom Lescher is based out of Costa Rica right now, and I'm not sure how well their ISPs are in Costa Rica, but we've had a pretty good connection so far throughout the show. I'm hoping we can clear up any technical difficulties during this call. But you have to really think about what Tom's talking about, that it is now our responsibility to take action. We've spent, for those of us on this particular path, I know I've been doing this now for 20 years, even 20-somethings. We've been inundated with information, at least over the last 5 years. There's just so much that we have learned, and it is now time to apply it. It's kind of like we've gone through the high school, we've gone through the college aspect of human consciousness, and now we need to bring this all back into a perspective that we can literally apply. Unfortunately, I am having a difficult time getting Tom back. Let me try getting him through on a phone. I don't know if that's going to work. Let's see. Can we do that? But with that being said,
Buenos días.
Are you there?
Yes. Hello, Tom.
There are advantages and disadvantages to living in Costa Rica.
I was just sharing with everybody. But while we were trying to get you back, I was making the parallels of we've been getting so much information, especially over the last I'd say the last 5, 6, 7 years. And you were saying how it's time for us to really step up and take action. Is there anything in the stars or in astrology right now that is going to help motivate us with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm saying, this eclipse is there for us, with us now, leading us. The north node of the moon is our future soul destiny, and collectively, it's moving through the sign of Scorpio for a year and a half. It's been there for about a year. It's going to be there for another half a year or so. And this is about, this is very interesting. Scorpio is, it rules this law of osmosis, that we become what we relate to, and we transform ourselves through relationship, through union. And it's time to be I was talking about this Mercury, Saturn. It's time to control Saturn, our thinking, Mercury, and direct all of our energy, the sun, towards dealing with, and Scorpio is not only the force of death, but it is all forces beyond our control. And we have a lot of forces beyond our control attempting to harness our energy, use and exploit and manipulate the human race. And it's really time for us, and this is very symbolic of the time when there can be some last-ditch efforts. It's like, a dying animal has these last, pangs and kicks, before it can let go and surrender. And this is really, saying that, and I have some other dates coming up for you, because there is a huge, what in astrology we call a grand cross occurring. And this grand cross is going to be occurring as the planet Mars moves into the sign of Libra, December 8th. It's going to go forward into an opposition with Uranus, a square with Pluto, and a square with Black Moon Lilith. And then it's going to go, and that's going to be on January 5th.
Okay.
But, we can even say Christmas to January 1st. This is going to be one hell of a Christmas.
The 12 days of Christmas.
The 12 days of Christmas are going to be so very powerful with this grand cross going on. And then Mars actually goes up to 27 degrees of Libra and turns around and comes back. And very interestingly, right in the middle of April, which is, just April 15th. It's interesting. It's tax time in the United States.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's April 14th, I said, that the Uranus is exactly square Pluto. Well, on April 24th, Mars comes around for the second time, and it's all at exactly the same degree, 13 degrees.
Wow.
Of Aries, Capricorn, Libra, and Cancer. And Mars, Uranus, Pluto, Lilith. And, we put these guys together, and if we look at the cast of characters involved in this, grand cross is obviously, and it's a configuration that holds within it tremendous tension.
I was about to say that. Libra and Cancer are like oil and water.
This is just like, Fukushima, ready, just like frickin', and it's just like people are going to be so, this reflects, just a change in our whole, Uranus is our nervous system. Mars is our adrenal glands. Pluto is our Kundalini sex genital, drive, and Black Moon Lilith is our deepest, darkest, suppressed feminine energy.
Yeah.
So, combine all these and just mix them together. This is like a witch's brew that is just going to absolutely create, I see an explosion.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is explosive, absolutely explosive. And then Mars goes direct and comes back in June and visits this, this configuration again. It's not as exact. It's 12 degrees, 16 degrees, and, Jupiter moves on to 23 degrees. But I see this time period, and it's like this eclipse in the beginning of November is like a heralding. Okay, that then builds through Christmas into early January, and then there's a big peak in April, and then the dust begins to settle through the months of June and July. So I see this time period as, people had kind of a disillusionment, last December, and it's like, okay, now, you've had a year, to see, to feel into a new reality, a new situation, and get in touch with the power of your creative intelligence, and make this happen. and through, we're looking at this age of Aquarius, it is through community, and it is through international global efforts, And here's my next thing. I think before the internet died on me, I was thinking, I feel like it's important to look at yourself and do your yoga, do your meditation, look at your diet, look at your exercise, and, get your body. Your body is your instrument. And, you really want to get the right signals and give the right signals, and if you're on a bunch of meds and you're, smoking, drinking, and, whacking off, whatever, you're basically throwing your instruments for both communicating, receiving, and communicating externally with the outside world, interacting with the outside world. Your body is like your interface. So this is like first and foremost to deal with. But then once as that, and you keep that in tune, then I also say the next big step that I see is, and as it's all tied together, because what you do is you end up not being, you don't need your McDonald's, you don't need your Starbucks. Your body is not craving and calling out for, the big comfy couch and the big expensive this and expensive that drives you to need a lot of money, that drives you to, work for the man and get locked into the whole advertising and mind control of the whole system. The whole thing is to unplug.
Exactly.
We need to be unplugging, and not only unplugging from the United States as a re-emerging Atlantis, as a superpower that is, kind of the seat trying to, go for world domination. It involves going global. The Aquarius has to do with international. It is the internet. It is the World Wide Web. It is make friends through every possible means overseas.
Yeah.
Go global. Start making your money globally. Start making your life globally. Get out of this local geography that limits you to a local economy, that limits you to just using the dollar, that it locks you into, taxes and the banks and everything else that's going on, and really move into this, global state of affairs. Because I when the shit hits the fan, I see it as, that we want to be as autonomous, as sovereign, as free individuals as possible. And so it's interesting, my personal history here now. I've stepped out of the United States, and I feel a lot safer now. Like, I was just in Florida at these conferences, and I was like, you know what, I don't really want to talk about this stuff while I'm standing on a soil.
Where were you in Florida? Where'd they have it?
They were Sarasota.
Oh, okay. I know that area very well. Very suburban, very white retirement,
And then I went over to Cocoa Beach after that, and I'm just like, I've got my Verizon cell phone, and I just don't feel, I get a bad feeling in the United States that I'm just under surveillance.
Yeah, well, that's they've done a good job of doing that, haven't they?
So it's something, and the other thing that I also want to point out, it's like there's this huge part of me that has not wanted to be negative or talk about evil or create fear within people, and I've kind of kept my mouth shut, and I focused on the positive and the light and the spiritual and everything. But I really see us as coming into this time, this awakening to polarity, is awakening to this masculine feminine, it's a very important, I would say, step in the evolution of consciousness to deal with these conditions and realities without getting sucked into them or emotionally distraught and fall into depression, into despair, which leads to a weakened state of consciousness. So I really focus on attraction rather than repulsion. And so, instead of hating and resenting and feeling victimized and creating perpetrators and looking at these, Illuminati and the big, conspiracy theories and what I see this eclipse is doing, and what it's really a very positive time for all of us to be disciplining our minds and creating a state of gratitude, which is a very high vibrational state within our hearts. I know Tom Kenyon and other people give these meditations, and I can, release them or whatever, that, help us through music and through sound and through different visualization techniques to create this state, this vibration of gratitude, this high spiritual state within our hearts, within our space, within our consciousness. And then to be moving towards something rather than away from something, rather than rebelling and revolting and regurgitating and trying to barf up this, garbage that we ate or whatever. It's like, what? I focus on, I'm designing this little house to build in this ecologically self-sustaining community down here in Costa Rica. That's, surrounded by this, beautiful river, and we're growing tropical fruits. And it's just like, as you move towards, as long as you're making, even if it's baby steps, in this direction that is, towards something that's love, that's community, that is, connecting, merging, orgasming, with.
It makes you feel good.
Instead
of making you feel angry. Exactly.
And if there is a world of polarity, we've got equal amounts of light and dark.
Okay, we're going to have to take a short break in just a moment. We'll be right back.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are having a wonderful discussion with Tom Lescher on everything from astrology to the awakening of humanity to what we can do to continue to emphasize and to perpetuate this growth of humanity. It does seem like humanity has come to a place where we are being asked not only externally but internally to take the next step, to grow up. For those of you that are interested in learning more about our guest, Tom Lescher, you can find him at his website, www.newparadigmastrology.com. And, of course, if you'd like to learn more about myself and the Global Illumination Council, you can find us at thegic.org. Now, Tom, before we went on the break, we were talking about the evolution and taking responsibility for ourselves in the sense that aligning with what we like versus what we don't like. Unfortunately, I am seeing a bit of growth in the quote unquote movement, whatever that movement may be, consciousness, metaphysics, politics, truthers, whatever. We are seeing a bit moving more into the information realm versus the, oh my God, look what they did realm. And I think that's a very positive thing. Is there anything that we see coming on the horizon astrologically, or what do you feel is happening as we're moving away from the blame game into the it's time for me to do something that's better for me and everybody else?
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. That's so much what this age of Aquarius is about, which is a 2,000-year age. We're right on the cusp entering it right now. We're coming out of Pisces, water, feeling, symbolic of, this emotional reactions, into Aquarius is non-attachment. It is objective analysis. It's the scientist. It is just looking at things, information. It's the age where this is the birth of the age of information, that we are just babies over the next 2,000 years. Information is going to, the internet is just in its infancy.
Yeah.
So, we do. There is this place, and it's very powerful now with this Mercury-Saturn eclipse in Scorpio. Saturn also has to do with objectivity. And, we can just act from such a better place instead of reacting out of, like the inner child, the emotional, horror, and the tragic victim, overreacting, overcompensating, overdoing, freaking out and freaking everybody else out, then we can come into this place of, this is just the way it is. And this is, I need this information and that information. And when I put all of these pieces together, from a place of enlightenment, I can make choices and decisions and take actions that are going to have a much, more far-reaching, effect. So,
with that being said, Tom, and I'm sure perhaps maybe you've been experienced some of this in the sense that we have, unfortunately, there is how shall we say? There's so much negativity toward moving beyond the 3D realm. So many people are holding on to their television. They're holding on to their aspartame sodas. They're holding on to their dualistic religions and whatnot. And I'm sure those of us like myself and everybody that is really working hard to share this information, on occasion we'll get people that will say, well, you're perpetuating the long-term goal of the Illuminati, and this is Luciferian and satanic and whatnot. Now, my stance has always been that, or my reaction, I shouldn't even say reaction, my reply has always been, well, if you are really not acknowledging your innate power, then the Illuminati is winning. How do you deal? And I know you're on the web. I'm sure you get these crazy emails and replies and comments. What is your answer to those that say astrology is satanic, or expanding your consciousness is the work of Lucifer, or the crazy? I don't want to offend anyone, but let's just say the right-wing, conservative Christian aspect of all this. How do we create balance, and how do we educate those that are so afraid of this knowledge?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, well.
It really gets me just into, in evolutionary astrology, we work with the evolutionary stages. And, we look at reincarnation, and we've all had, hundreds of lifetimes. And, these evolutionary stages, there's three basic ones. There's the consensus, the individuated, and the spiritual. And the consensus is 75% of any given population. That's 3 out of 4 people that follow external authority, which at this time is scientists, primarily, along with bankers and rich people, and they're really limited in their view to what is right in front of their nose, and they don't really look at huge cycles of time and history and blah blah evolution. And so you have that huge. It is the majority. 3/4 of the population. is in this, herd state, the consensus state of following. And the thing that I am, in a real great state of gratitude for is that I really don't attract those people. I don't hear from those people, and I really don't have very much to do with any of those people. But looking at it another way, yes, it's true. And my whole thing is, you know what? The teacher appears when the student is ready, and when you ask the question, then the answer comes. And so I work with people, who are asking questions, and who want to know, and who come to me, or they listen to my YouTubes or my whatever, and then it's like, yeah. So I don't know. I really don't get. I don't get any, hate mail or whatever.
Wow.
This, that, or the other
no
thing.
Death threats. Wow.
I haven't gotten any. I just get a lot of thank yous, and I get a lot of gratitude. I get amazing amounts of positive feedback from all the stuff that I do. So but in looking at your what you're saying is these people, okay, that percentage of the population. Okay, those 3 out of 4 people are maybe asleep, or maybe they're automatons. They're victims of conditioning from their parents and, the media and, the government and religion and everything. And it's only when, and this is actually the function of pain. Yeah. Basically there's only so much pain and suffering that you are going to endure before you begin to ask questions and seek alternative solutions to release, to remove, to heal that suffering. And this is actually what I see coming with this grand cross involving Mars, Pluto, Uranus, and, Black Moon Lilith. I mean, these are 3 of the darkest, hardest, catastrophic, traumatic energies that we can be dealing with. And they're all, coming into, divine locations, to really give us a good shot in the arm. Yeah. I mean, this is just like, you get, the way I see it, life, or I use life instead of God or source or whatever, I think life is my teacher, and nice. I'm a servant of life, and, life is all there is and whatever. Life gives us a tap on the shoulder, a whisper in the ear, then a nudge, then a push, then a freaking 4x4 smacking us across the head, man, And, it's just like, it's so perfect, all right, that this government shutdown, to me, this government shutdown was just like a perfect trial run, like they fly this little test balloon. Okay, let's see what the public's going to do. Let's see what Obama's going to do. Let's see what everybody does. Let's cripple the presidency, show how useless the government really is and whatever, we can just stop everything, and let's see, to me, and then of course, what do? They table it until next January, February, right? This whole debt thing and this whole conversation and this whole Tea Party, which I see as just being like a tool, these guys are just, a bunch of puppets that I don't think they know what the hell they're doing.
No, sadly they don't.
And if anybody who does get onto something, all they do is give them more money.
Yeah.
So, I see them as like the right arm of, what wants to, and then take down the government. And I see this, I don't think it is the government. I think it is taking down the government, showing that, and creating a vacuum, creating a void within the power that, it's like, Obama's not in charge. Well, who is? This is like, it's not like the government is going to shut down and nobody's going to seize the day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's time where actually we're going to see those that have been pulling the strings, those that have been hidden, those that have been, unseen, untouchable, unreachable, unknown. I think it's time where they are going to say, you know what, screw it, and then the consensus people, then this 3/4 of the population, okay. This is like trumpets going off.
Yeah.
It's the great big I told you so. It's the great big look it. You know what? There's curfew, there's military takeover, there's tanks going down the streets, whatever, man.
Right.
It's just like we've been telling you that you are not free. And you've been under the illusion that a certain amount of addictive behaviors defines you as a free autonomous being, or whatever. But right now it's going to become clearly obvious that the population is not free. And I think that is going to create, a lot of questioning besides anger and besides like shock and trauma and, all kinds of, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think that the pharmaceutical companies are, going to really try to cash in on this one.
Oh, well, of course. They probably have like a drug ready for it, like Armageddonil,
But I guess my feeling is it's just at some point, and then there's going to be, I think there's going to be a huge, reaching out, a huge explosion, where people are going to, they're going to seek out. You know what? I remember hearing, G.I.C. radio, they were talking about this, months and years ago, and I remember so-and-so, and there's going to be, then, an open ear that does not exist right now. But that is, I feel is really coming with this great awakening, and it's just like your alarm clock going off, and I want to keep it in that kind of a frame, right. And this may be like Fukushima, blowing, and destroying. It may involve, this alarm could be catastrophic in nature. Either through the natural world or through man-made economic and governmental conditions. But regardless of how it manifests, it's going to, obviously, this is just me telling myself that it's going to be, good.
Right. But you have to admit, in the long run, and back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this particular radio show, you were explaining the idea of cycles. You were explaining the idea of this is not going to manifest in our lifetime. I think it's very fair to say for all of us listening and all of us being involved in this awakening or this transition into new paradigm, that we are the midwives. We must be prepared to just do the work and not necessarily nurture the child. We're birthing. We're creating something new that will hopefully take root in future generations. And I feel that's something that we have lost as a culture, especially in the Western world. We forget that what we're creating today, we're creating for future generations, and to not take it so personally.
Right. Exactly. And I also see a lot of destruction as largely being self-destruction.
Yeah.
And, these destructive forces are basically just, destroying themselves and creating, just like when Atlantis went down, there were different groups that went off to Egypt, that went over to India, that, came to North America, it's like seeds. And I think this is the same thing that's happening. I'm here in Costa Rica. It's like, this community I'm in, we've got people from 26 different countries. I'd say, if anything, the main thing that's going to happen is that the United States is going to realize that, it is not the world.
That's not the answer.
There is such a naive, narcissistic self-preoccupation going on that that Americans in general, I don't want to anything, but
some Americans,
I mean, it's just there is this, and I am like only realizing it more and more the more that I get outside the United States. How people look at the gringos. And these, Americans they just kind of snicker, it's just like, what? This is not the only country in the world. The U.S. dollar is not the only currency in the world. And, the U.S. banking system is not the only, it's just like it is powerful, but it's not ultimate. And I see a scattering, just like I said, with Atlantis. I also see a scattering of, brilliant. It's also the seed of, of brilliance. There's, just, you look at, so much has come out, of America. And I'm looking at the chart of the United States of America. It's very interesting, that the sun for the chart of the United States of America is at 13 degrees of Cancer.
Wow. Oh, wow.
This grand cross that's happening at 13 degrees of all the cardinal signs is actually occurring exactly on the sun of the United States of America, which is square to Saturn at 14 degrees of Libra. So it's actually triggering a pre-existing pattern, that the United States has in its karma. If we look at Saturn, as the Lord of karma, and we look at the chart of the United States, we see that Saturn is in Libra. And the way I interpret Saturn is where we have said no to life. And therefore, we've created obstacles, limitations, and problems. And of course, it's in the sign of Libra for the United States of America, which is partnerships, relationships, and other countries. And so there's a correcting process. There's just a realignment that needs to happen, that involves, in some way, shape, and form, I would say the rest of the world, other countries, whether it's, China, Japan, Europe, these other countries really coming into Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia and, other countries kind of, in a way, supporting, helping, assisting, the wounded child that's having a tantrum, that's, kicking its arms and legs or trying to, tell mom and dad what to do. It's like America is like this infant. It's got Venus, Jupiter, Sun, and Mercury in Cancer, which is, the astrological sign associated with the inner child.
Wow.
And immaturity and, emotional tantrums and just, thinking that it's, supposed to get everything without, So,
Now, if I can just jump in because I'm very interested in what you're sharing here with the chart of the United States. Now, let me clarify. You're looking at a chart of what, July 4th, 1776?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is when the Declaration of Independence was
Right.
signed, and it's at 4:50 p.m. In Philadelphia.
Right, right.
And it's Sagittarius rising, which I think was really confirmed because it was Pluto exactly going over that degree. Well, it was it was around 12 degrees of Sagittarius with the Twin Towers in 2001.
Oh, really? Wow.
That was when Pluto went over the ascendant of this United States chart. And, of course, Pluto has to do with, death, transformation, and annihilation.
Right.
And it was the death of the old dreams and illusions and, the beginning of a waking up process.
Let me ask you, and I know this might be a controversial question, but has anyone done a chart of the 9/11 attacks? Or have you?
Yeah.
Oh. And
yeah.
And what did we see? Pluto, or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Jesus, I've done so many charts. I hate to say, I mean, it would be nice if I could pull it up here once. But
what comes to mind that you remember from looking at that particular chart? Because I will say that for me personally, I did feel, and I don't mean this from oh my God, I'm watching CNN, I'm crying, la la la. No. I saw that it was a change in energy for the world, that this was going to change the age of whatever, the age of freedom, the age of sovereignty. That this was a very dark cloud for everybody, not only the United States. And I just can't help but wonder if there was anything that stuck out to you, if you in the chart for the 9/11 attacks.
Well, like I say, the biggest thing that I remember was that it was Pluto going right over the freaking ascendant, which is the destiny of the destiny of the United States. Has to do with the ascendant. It has to do with what we're learning as a nation. And so, to me, the big signal there is that it's Sagittarius rising. And what is Sagittarius? This Pluto moving through Sagittarius, the Sagittarius rising, the destiny of the United States of America is to expand into a greater, wider, broader understanding of the meaning of life, of of natural law. And, so this is just like, super, powerfully significant. Right now I'm looking at the chart for September 11th of 2001 in New York, and that Pluto at 12 degrees of Sagittarius is opposite Saturn at 14 Gemini, square the Sun at 18 Virgo. So this was a big T square that was going on at that time. The Moon was actually conjunct the north node of the Moon at 3 degrees of Cancer, which is, interestingly enough, the Venus of the United States chart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it overlays right over Venus.
Yeah. And Jupiter was at 11 degrees of Cancer, which was conjunct the Sun of the United States chart. So it's very, I hate to say that there's gain through loss, but very often, Jupiter is the co-ruler of Pisces. It has to do with expansion, opportunity, and, the positive, understanding of the guru. But it is also associated very often with the waking up or the releasing of old illusions, disillusion. It says, Pisces has to do with disillusionment. And, through that disillusionment, it's very painful, but you get in touch with reality and you get in touch with what is. And of course, we see the north node of the moon conjunct the United States of America, Venus. Venus has to do with money. It's the banks.
Right.
It's our resources. Right. And, that whole thing of, and if we look at what's going on now, Black Moon Lilith is in Cancer. Jupiter is in Cancer again, coming back over the sun again. This is 12 years later. Jupiter goes around every 12 years. So we're having, where Jupiter was in 1776 is in the same place that Jupiter was at 9/11, 2001. And now it's coming back to the same place April 24th of 2013. So we could say that there is a definite Jupiter connection between the birth of the United States chart, 9/11, and what's coming up next spring.
Oh. Well, that will be very interesting, won't it?
Yeah.
I sit here, I can't help, the conspiracy mind in me is like, well, I wonder how many charts these people looked at before they signed the Declaration of Independence or allowed 9/11 to happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, here we are. We're the good guys. We're talking about this. We're sharing this publicly. But I'm sure that there are, how shall we say, metaphysically inclined folk in the powers that be that seem to play off of it as well. But like you said, and I really enjoyed the idea of it, and I do believe it very much myself, is that these powers that be are really. They know that they're in decline. They know that they're falling apart, and it's really up to us now to take the ball and run. And they might get a hiccup of power here and there. They might get a last-ditch effort, like you said. But the reality of it is that humanity is on a course toward equality, balance, and an awakening process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyway, we have only about 10 more seconds on this segment. We're going to take a short break in just a few moments, and I just want to remind everybody we are speaking with Tom Kaypacha Lescher.
And now, back to your host, Bernard Alvarez.
Welcome back to the Just Bernard Show here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Before the break, I was just about to remind everybody where you can find more information about our great guest today, Tom Lescher, at www.newparadigmastrology.com. Tom, tell us a little bit about your website. What can people find there? Are your videos there? Are your charts there? Can they get a chart from you?
Yeah, boy, I got a lot of stuff going on. It's all on the website. Let me see. I'll just go there myself so I can.
I do the same thing. I hear
That's bad, man.
I hear
you have to go to your own website. But the reality is that yes, I do. I mean, I do personal readings with Skype. Every day, all day. I'm
okay.
So you can purchase natal readings, individual transit readings, relationship readings. I counsel with couples and look at the past lives and future intentions of individuals, couples. And then I also do astrogeography for different locations on planet Earth where different planetary influences are stronger for you depending upon what you're looking for. People that are looking to move to different places. So I do basically those three kinds of charts. Then I do workshops. I travel around internationally doing workshops on various topics. And I'm hosting now a webinar. I just started a webinar last Friday was my first day. It's an 8-week webinar on intimacy and relationship in the horoscope, dealing with this balancing of the masculine and the feminine. We're looking at Venus and Mars in your personal chart, and then, of course, in relationship to other charts. So I'm doing an 8-week webinar on that. And then I've got, I'm going working with some other folks in Mexico and Guatemala, looking at the Mayan. So I do journeys and travel tours. I'm swimming with the dolphins in Bimini and talking about Neptune and things like that. So workshops, class, and then you can download. I've got all kinds of recordings and previous webinars if you want to learn astrology. And yeah,
that's awesome, man. You're like a powerhouse of astrological wisdom, aren't you?
I started this community.
Oh, wow.
For $15 a month. You get, I'm also doing these longer half-hour videos in addition to my weekly 15-minute forecasts. And I give people the astrology webinars to learn astrology. You get a webinar every month. I have a guest expert do a video for the community every month. And then I do a question and answer webinar every month, and there's a forum, and so
Nice.
I'm trying to build an international community, that is sharing astrological insights regarding the evolution of consciousness. That
sounds great.
Yeah. So.
And to remind everybody, that is at www.newparadigmastrology.com, and of course you can see Tom's videos. Do you do the videos weekly, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
On YouTube?
Yeah, I do a YouTube forecast every it comes out Wednesday or Thursday.
Wow. Awesome. And have you? Can you give us a little sneak peek of what might be coming up next week? What's going on in the planets over just the next week?
Yeah. Oh, just this next week. Well, I mean, the main thing.
I don't want to put you on the spot or anything.
No, that's not putting me on the spot. The main thing that we're looking at, right now, okay, during this time, is this buildup to the eclipse. I mean, it's huge, and it's coming. It's kind of, growing more and more intense every day. The main thing that's been going on, recently is this Mars opposite Neptune. Mars just went into the sign of Virgo, where it's going to be for a little while, and it's opposing Neptune and Chiron. And it's been, how can I say,
tumultuous.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get the engines going. Mars is that drive, that force to let's do it. Let's make it happen. Let's go for it. But when it opposes Neptune and Chiron in Pisces, the sign of dreams and, multidimensional realities, and take me out of here, get me, it's just kind of like, whoa. The nice thing is that is kind of separating now. It's lifting, and it will be time to accomplish. Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot to be doing right now. Mars in Virgo is just like the best thing that people can be doing is directing a lot of their energy towards work, exercise, healing, diet, and getting a lot done. So pay attention to the details and, focus. It's a good time to be focusing. It's not a real good time to be relaxing, chilling out, going on vacation. There's just you may feel a lot of stress and pressure these days, but if you heed the call and surrender to the times of what life is bringing you, you'll be very satisfied and very glad that you focused and got your shit together and took care of those details and lined your ducks up. I mean, now is the time to, get your ducks in order.
Right.
It's like, what? There's some big stuff coming in the next few months. See where your money is, where it's been, see where what your plans are, what your situation is, and it's like, if you knew ahead of time, that a hurricane was coming, what would you do?
Right. It doesn't matter how tired you are, you still got to go to the store.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is. It's kind of a time of, giving ourselves a little kick in the butt,
Now, with that being said, in the next 2 weeks, it's actually 2 weeks from today. We have election day in the United States, and you had mentioned something earlier about November 2nd. Can you expand a little bit about some of the energies that are revolving or just vibrating right now as far as the United States elections? I know that here in Virginia, we have a huge gubernatorial election, and it's been very controversial where they're trying to kick out the libertarians, and we've got this guy that's being backed by Clinton, and then the other crazy guy wants to send women back to the 1920s, and so it's just been chaotic. But that's just one example of what's happening. I know that nationally, I'm not even sure if we're going to be voting for Congress or whatnot, but I do know that election days always have a bit of a frantic energy to it. So what are the stars and the planets telling us about this particular one coming up?
This is going to be one of the most frantic.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like I said, on November 1st, we have the fourth exact square of Uranus and Pluto that began in the summer of 12 and goes until the spring of 15. And we're kind of at the midpoint. It's the fourth out of 7. It's the midpoint of that transition. And the eclipse is on the 3rd.
Nice.
Now, let's talk about these eclipses a little bit, because eclipses all through history have been associated with the outbreak of plagues, with absolute chaos and disaster. I mean, this is a time when basically the moon comes between the sun and the earth. It blocks the rays of the sun. And in doing so, some of the, ancients and the ways that they looked at this was that the auric shield of the earth is broken at that time during the eclipse, allowing chaotic, unfamiliar forces from outside the solar system to enter into this field. Now, that, may be pretty far out for some people, but all I can say is that the eclipses are very much associated with unexpected, unpredictable, chaotic surprises that are of a, how can we say it, traumatic nature, that disturb the order or the expected outcome and twist it or turn it into something else. So to me, this, could indicate that there's going to be, some surprises, and some of those surprises could be, who knows, that the Tea Party takes over Congress.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's, that would be one of those things, because that's the other thing, is that Mercury and Saturn are also there. And Saturn is conservative. It's the establishment. It has to do with suppressing and conforming and maintaining. Boy. It's just like, this is like the final clampdown, or this is like, there's a lot of, interest in the outcome, of the of this time period.
Right, right.
So it's just interesting that the United States elections happens to fall right at this exact time within a much larger cycle. Yeah.
And it happens to fall on the very same day that Anonymous is planning their million mask march around the world.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
November 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Oh,
Funny how
man.
this all happens all at once. Talk about a busy astronomical, astrological energy, binge.
Yeah, totally. Shoo-wee. And yeah, it's
Now,
really...
for those of us who, and again, and I know I said this earlier, but I just want to bring it up because we're getting near the end of the show. Is that there's some rattling of the cages. There's some destruction of old paradigms. Some of, oh my God, what I thought was real isn't real happening. Over the next, it's been happening for a while now, and it's going to continue to happen for a while. What can you share with our listeners as to that process of, wow, my life foundation has been shaken. What can I do to kind of like reground myself and get some order and help that dust to settle so I can continue moving forward?
Yeah. Well, that is what I love about astrology, is it also shows you the way out.
Good, sounds good.
The way to go forward. Let's not say out. Let's say the way forward and
through it.
And through it. It's the Pluto polarity point. Pluto wants to be balanced. And it all deals with polarities. And it's like as you move from one extreme or one pole towards the other pole, you create this dynamic of the Trinity, the law of three, where the third point can come in, and there can be this awakening or this ascension, however you want to look at it. And it's interesting then to see that this black moon Lilith is opposite Pluto and has been August 29th, it squared Uranus, September 17th. It's still in the sign of Cancer, along with Jupiter. And this Cancer is about, and Jupiter is also the fast track of evolution. And it says to me that Cancer is about awakening to our inner child. It is awakening to our going to the beat of your own drummer. It is the intuitive, feeling, feminine, inner world, trusting that my inner guidance, that my intuition is accurate, and I don't need so much information. The head, if anything, this is leading us out of our head, linear, logical, polarized, reasonable, rational world into the realm of feeling, into the realm of the feminine, into the inner realms. So this grounding is about connecting with our feelings. And a good way of doing that is obviously the north node of the moon, and this whole eclipse is in Scorpio. And Scorpio is sexual union. Scorpio is financial, emotional union on very deep, personal, intimate levels. It is uniting with others, not so much, in terms of, accomplishment or goals, but in terms of, really exploring, researching, investigating deeper levels of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a human at this time. And, this is really coming into, some basic, the fundamental life force. Just really has to do with nature, and it has to do with our bodies and our our emotions and our bodies more so than all of this information and head stuff and plans and future. It's actually focusing a little more on the now and on the present and trusting that as I, get my body and myself and my heart and my, consciousness in alignment, then I'm going to be guided. My intuition.
And trusting that intuition. I feel that, unfortunately, many of us we've forgotten how to trust what we feel. And hopefully what you're sharing with us is bringing us back to that alignment and connection with our intuition. My Skype is letting me know that Costa Rica internet service providers have disconnected Tom. Let's hope we can get him back over these last few minutes of the show. But he's hit the nail right on the head when it comes to our awakening process. We as individuals, we as members of a city, of a state, of a country, we've got to move beyond the barriers, beyond the borders of what our ego and our consciousness is telling our ego, literally, this is who I am. I am American. I'm a man. I live in this state, or I am a Republican or a Democrat or whatnot. We need to really, really do our best to let go of that, so we have the opportunity to allow ourselves to move into this next level of clarity, this next level of cosmic and or even earthbound evolution.
All right.
And we're back.
Hey, that's pretty good. The internet only went down twice in 2 hours.
That's not bad. Not bad. Not bad. But I was just telling them while you were missing that this is really just a step into the direction of human evolution. And we need to surrender our idea of who we are as individuals and or as nations, and really embrace the idea of a unity, non-dualistic idea of who we are.
Yeah. I would just say the whole thing with Cancer is non-conforming.
Yeah. We've only got 2 minutes, and I was hoping to get this question in, and I think I'm going to be selfish enough to do it. I have a personal question I want to ask you. We've got about 2 minutes, so if we can just make it brief. What are your ideas? My chart is Cancer Sun, Pisces rising, and Pisces moon. Do I need to be put into a mental hospital? No, I'm kidding.
Wow. So you got, that's triple water. Yeah. Okay, so you've got a high tolerance for chaos. That's great, man. And it's, of course, a very powerful, strong intuition. And the other aspect that, for you is just that Pisces is the collective unconscious. So, the moon and the rising in Pisces is that, you are highly, highly, highly sensitized to what is collectively happening and occurring. And, you need to build your immune system so that you don't get too overwhelmed.
Tell me about
it. And too overstimulated. So, Pisces, and I suggested for everybody at this time, really needs simplicity.
Right. We got to cut it off. I just want to thank you very much, Tom Lescher. NewParadigmAstrology.com. We'll see you all next week. Thank you, everybody.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet, and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.